This video is sponsored by my good friends over at RenWare. Now, this is technically a part 2. A few months ago, I released a instance auditor for Jira, link in the description, so make sure you go check that one out. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about instance auditor for Confluence. So very, very different video, but still made by my good friends over at RenWare. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please make sure you take a second here to subscribe, drop a like if you get value out of the video, and most importantly, don't forget to check out the links down below so you can see the link to the Jira Instance Auditor video, to the merch store, and most importantly, to the link so that you can also start your free 30-day trial of Instance Auditor for Confluence. Let's jump into Confluence interface today.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move.
So this video is going to be for my Confluence administrators. If you're not a Confluence administrator, you're probably not going to appreciate this video as much, but rest assured when I tell you that this is a really, really cool auditing tool that is going to make your life a lot easier. Now, if you are a Confluence administrator, after you use the link down below to get your free 30-day trial of Instance Auditor for Confluence going, and after you install it, you're going to see that you now have an Instance Auditor section here under your settings. And in order to get that, all you got to do is click on the gear and you will be rerouted to Instance Auditor for Confluence. The first place we're going to start is with the overview charts. Now, the overview charts does take a second here to load. It's going to go crunch all of our data and essentially build out a map of everything that's in your instance of Confluence. And depending on how much information you have there, it's going to take a few moments. So please be patient. But overall, trust me, the patience is going to be worth it because after a few seconds, it actually only took me like about 3 seconds here, you're going to see this beautiful overview that is going to break down all the information for you and help you understand what is actually happening under the hood for your Confluence instance. Now we're going to start off at the top. We are going to have an instance content summary where you're going to be able to see how many spaces have been used in the last 3 months, the last 6 months, and the last 12 months. So if you've ever suffered or been through this situation where you're like, my team just has way too many spaces and I don't even know which ones are being used, which ones are active, which ones can we afford to clean up? Well, this instance auditor here for Confluence is going to give you a better understanding, a better story of what is actually happening under the hood and check and see if you can afford to maybe clean up some spaces here that are just not being used by you and your team. So that's this first row here. And then we get the global content summary down here where you're going to be able to get just some metadata, some metrics on how many global spaces do you have, how many personal spaces do you have, how many blueprint templates do you have, how many global content templates you have, and how many themes you have. Now, one really interesting thing for me is this personal spaces. Now, obviously I'm a team of 1, so I only have 1. But if you're in a pretty big company, these personal spaces can really balloon, especially if you leave the setting where automatically, as every Confluence user comes into Confluence, they get a personal space. This number can balloon to thousands and thousands of people. And while that's okay because they're employees of you, when they leave the company, when they're no longer with this company, that's when you want to go in and start cleaning this data up because these personal spaces are usually locked up. They're usually not open to everybody. So you just have all this extra overhead. And this Confluence auditor here for Confluence is going to help us understand all the personal spaces, and we're going to be able to cross-reference that with just spaces that haven't been used in over 12 months, right? And so they're going to be really, really good candidates for cleanup there. Now, this is just the overview chart, right? This is intended to just give you a 50,000 foot view of what's going on inside of your Confluence. But over here on the left-hand side, we can click on global content and we can start zooming in just a little bit more. And so as you can see here, this is going to go in. Now, this is all using an API. And so it just, whatever's available, whatever Atlassian makes available via the API, that's what you're going to be able to do here. But let me walk you through some of the cool things that you get here. So first off, we're going to get these global spaces. As you may remember from a second ago, I have 10 of those. And so this is all the information. You can see the space ID, the avatar that it's using, the space name, the key, the creator, the data was created, the number of pages in that space. So you can see which spaces are being heavily populated and used and whatnot. And so you can see all that information here. We can, of course, very similar to the instance auditor for Jira, we can select some of these and then we have all these different actions up here that we can just click on and do different activities with. Now, I'm not going to get into too many details there because overall, this tool is telling me that I have a good, healthy Confluence. Now, what's really cool about this tool is that it uses some smarts to help you understand, do you even need to take action? Because for me specifically here, I only have 10 spaces and my audit is coming back as a good. I'm getting a thumbs up that this is a healthy instance of Confluence. But if yours is red or giving you a different message, then that's where I would be a little bit more concerned and I would start taking some actions. But that's the information that we get on the global spaces. So coming over to the personal spaces, again, same thing. We only have one. The audit is coming back as good. But just like the last page, you can select a space and then you have all these different actions up here that you can do. So if you wanted to throw one away, it's really easy for you to just throw a space here and just really, without even having to leave this interface, start cleaning up your Confluence. Now we can go over to space details. This is going to give us the ability to pick a space, so I can just randomly pick a space, and then it's going to go and give us like a deep dive into that space. So I think this is really, really cool, really, really neat, where we can see how many pages are in there, the total of child pages in the space, the total attachments, and most importantly, the attachment size. Now, I don't know if you know this, but in Confluence Cloud, you do not, I repeat, you do not have unlimited storage. You are restricted depending on which pricing model you are in. You are going to be restricted to a certain number of gigabytes that you're allowed to store files in. So with this instant auditor, if you're hitting that limit, if you're hitting that cap and you're trying to figure out, oh boy, where do I start deleting things? Well, it's probably a good idea to go to those spaces that are super, super old, that haven't been touched in a very, very long time. Come and do this audit here where you select that space here, and then let the tool help you figure out how many gigabytes are being used in that particular space. As you can see, I'm just going to go back to my ATech one here, and you can see I'm not using this a lot, folks, because again, I do this for my trainings, but in a real world environment, expect this number to be in the gigabytes. And so now you can go in there and essentially start going into your spaces and start doing some cleanups. So this is really, really cool. I think this is really interesting here, right? So you get two audits. You get the number of pages and the number of attachments, right? The size of the attachments. Now, both these audits are powerful in the sense that you're probably asking yourself, so why do I care the number of pages, right? Well, remember, information overload is a thing. There is such a thing as having duplicate pages and just having an overwhelming amount of information in your Confluences. And so while the search is really, really powerful and really, really interesting, there is still, for a newer person, a challenge, an uphill battle on trying to figure out where to find information and what information is current, which one's not current, which one's the relevant one, which one's the accurate one, right? And so having more and more pages is just going to compound to that effect of causing some confusion, a little bit of chaos. And this auditor here is going to help us understand if these pages need to be cleaned up or not, because if there's just data everywhere, well, it just gets, again, chaotic. Now, this I think is really interesting. So this will actually also tell me where in my page names are my attachments in, right? So if I want to clean up those attachments, like I mentioned, right, because you're hitting those limits, you're going to be able to come and find those attachments and be able to go straight to that page where that culprit is and start cleaning that out. Now, in the blueprint, kind of very similar to what I just mentioned about pages being overwhelming, blueprints are templates, right? And they're just the templates that you have available to you in your instance. And so this is going to go in and find all the different blueprints, all the different templates that you have available in your space. And as you can see, this one's requiring or recommending that I do a little bit of a cleanup. So again, you would want to go in here, select whatever you don't want. You can go into it, you can click on it and actually be redirected into that specific page so you can go verify if this is actually something you want or not need, right? Sometimes you make accidental templates and whatnot. So this is a great way to just have a holistic view of all your different blueprints and then be able to go straight into them to take immediate action. And as we work our way across, we got our global content templates, which again are going to be these templates that your team's going to use. And then we have themes. Now, I've never actually used a theme before, so mine's empty. But if you are using themes and again, you want to clean things up, you're going to get the information here. Now, to close out this video, we're going to go over to instance content over here and click on this final menu option over here. And as you can see, this is where you're going to get just overall metadata for your particular instance, right? So you're going to get your base URL, the IDs. These are going to be blurred out for me, so don't worry if you can't see them on my screen because your screen is going to have the actual information. But most importantly, you're going to be able to see the default time zone and the edition that you are running of Confluence. Now, both of those are pretty important because we live in a global world, and it's really, really important to find out what time zone your pages are being timestamped with. And for knowing which features are enabled for your Confluence, knowing which edition you're on is going to be really critical, as well as certain functionality unlocks as you pay more and more for Confluence. For example, automation rules only exist in the premium version of Confluence. So that's pretty much it. That is Instance Auditor. It's not as powerful as the Jira one because Jira just exposes so much more, but Confluence is also not as intensive with the demand of administration that you need to do anyways. And I really, really like, my overall thought is that I think this is a really well put tool, and it highlights, I think for the specific two use cases that I would really use this for would be my spaces that are just aging, right? Those spaces that are just there, they're lingering, specifically those personal spaces from team members that have left the company, that are no longer with the team. This is going to help you identify those. So that's use case number one. And use case number two is going to be finding those spaces that are just storing a lot of attachments that are taking up our space. Again, depending on the paid tier that you're on of Confluence, you're going to hit these limits. I've worked with teams that have definitely hit these limits. And so being able to find where those files are before using this plugin is like finding a needle in a haystack. But with this plugin, finding those pages and spaces that have these really, really big attachments that are taking up all the space, it's going to be so much easier. So that's it for this video. If you did enjoy this video, make sure you smash the thumbs up button. And if you made it this far and you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe. But most importantly, above all else, make sure you check out the links down below, as that is going to contain the link for Instance Auditor for Confluence. Go start a free 30-day trial. Take a look under the cover here and find out what's going on in your Confluence. What can you clean up, and what metadata can you get here to make the experience, the efficiencies of your Confluence that much better. So anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.